Hi friends, Kansi here from atop Serenity Hill, and today I wanted to show you how I made this no-sew junk journal zine with tags and pockets. And I made it as a prototype the other day and then realized that I'm going to film it for you, but that it would be easier if I had a base paper. So here's what I'm explain what it means by that. Is that I just taped, you can see from in here, paper together to make a big 12 by 12 square in order to have this, junk journal-y, no-sew journal idea as a zine. And then I also used parts of what I'd made to create all the tags that go in the zine. But I realized after I had done it, because I was struggling once the paper was done and everything, was that it would help if it had some kind of backing paper to it. And I needed that to be somewhat thin. Some of the paper I used only jelly prints and then some paper that I did shaving cream marbling on. So jelly prints and marbling, but on all different kinds of paper. And so like this is a very thin piece of paper. You can see both sides here. Then we have book paper and, printer paper, but it had so much paint on it. It gets kind of thick when it has printer paper is covered in jelly print ink or paint. So I figured it might be helpful if instead of trying to glue all these pieces to themselves, that I glued it to something. So my idea was to glue it to a piece of tissue paper because it didn't add to the bulk of the papers. It would help this one be a little more sturdy, but it wouldn't bulk up this stuff, the printer paper anymore, so it'd still be easy to fold. So the whole entire zine is made, including the tags, are made from a 12 by 12 piece of paper glued together. And what I had done is I actually had used this, but I just used this as a template and was gluing, on top of it, but not to it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to slip this underneath my tissue paper, get my papers out of the way, and I'm going to just draw with a Sharpie the general gist outside. I'm going outside the 12 by 12 because I'm going to trim it when I'm done. Okay. So I don't need this anymore. So I have my template, or not really template, but this is my base. I'm going to end up gluing all of these papers all over this, kind of like a masterboard. I mean, it is technically just a masterboard. And the idea behind this is that I got from Meg Journals, who does a lot of junk. She does Junk Journal July, Junk Journal January, and in November next month, and that would be November 2024, in case you find this in a later date, she's doing something she's calling No-Sew November. And she does a lot of these no-sew journals where she just takes paper and tapes them together in a long accordion. And I just thought, well, could I do the same thing and fold it into a zine and then create pockets and, add tags. And then I could work in this for No-Sew November with the prompts and still have, the whole no-sew idea. Okay, so that's where the whole concept came from. So, in essence, I am creating a masterboard and then folding it into a zine. So if you do masterboards and know what that, and you're familiar with those, which is basically just gluing a bunch of collage to something and then cutting it up and using it. That's what I'm doing, but with my base being tissue paper, okay? And then once I'm glued all the paper down, I'm just going to put it in a fast forward to do that part. Then I will show you how to cut it apart and have your tags and your zine, okay? So I'm going to use a combination of a glue stick and matte medium. Matte medium can get kind of wet with the tissue paper, but I'm going to see what I need. If I have to, the other option I have is my art glitter glue in case there's little sections that need to be glued down. And we'll just play with that as we go. All right, so I'm going to cut this off because honestly I don't need all this tissue paper. I have this huge piece of tissue paper lying on my table. And then I'm going to grab my jelly prints. That's a good way to use up your jelly prints, by the way. And these papers from the shaving cream marbling that I had done recently in a local class. And just glue it down. I'm going to keep the pages, the pieces fairly large. The reason being is that I'm folding a zine. So if I keep them really tiny and I start, when they hit the fold marks, you could even see here that it ripped a little bit. It came off. When it hits where it's folded, you don't want too many tiny little pieces because then they don't fold over as well. So I would keep the pieces fairly large. You can actually see, you know, how large some of the pages were by just looking at this. You know, they almost took up the whole page for the zine. All right, so let's glue some stuff down. We'll meet back here and cut it apart. All right, so I have it all glued down. Okay, it worked so much easier having the tissue paper on the back because of the fact that I could really glue all the pieces down really sturdy, as opposed to, you know, with these tiny little pieces were, you can even see some of it's coming up already, were just tiny little pieces glued, tiny little edges, not pieces, tiny edges glued to each other. So this will actually give it a little bit more stability. Okay, if I had been doing this as like an accordion journal, I probably wouldn't have done the tissue paper. I mean, it's an option, because I would have ended up taping papers to each other back to back, because then as the accordion opened, I was going to end up using both sides. But with a zine, you don't end up using the inside except to tuck things into. Okay, so that's also my idea, my reasoning behind the tissue paper. So the next thing I'm going to do is I need to decide which side I'm going to cut off, because your zine, this, is made up of 12 by 8.5. Okay, and the piece that you cut off gets cut up into two tags, into these two tags, and these tabs, okay, get cut off the end of this. So you want to decide what do you want it? I'm going to put it this way because let's put it here so you can see. This is what got cut off of my last one. You can actually see, where it got cut. All right, so off the edge. So this may be not as interesting as maybe this side, because then, you would have a tag here, a tag here, and then these would be cut from here, and then they'd be kind of interesting. So what I'm looking for is, where is there the most different interest pieces, as opposed to this just has 3 across the here, this pretty much has just 3, this has 4, this has a ton. So I'm going to cut this strip off, so it's going to be 8.5, and then cut it off. All right, so that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to grab a cutting mat, and I need to start. I could probably use a paper cutter, but my paper cutter is only a 12-inch paper cutter, so I need to start because it's bigger than that. So I'm going to use a metal ruler and a craft knife. Okay, so I have my 12 by 12. I was also careful not to cut a lot off of this side, because this is the side I want to chop off as my tags. So I made sure that whatever excess I was chopping off was over to this side, okay, when I ended up getting my 12 by 12. So now I want to line it up, and I want to cut this at 8.5. I'm trying to do it so you can see. I want to cut the tags off at 8.5. All right. Okay, so now I have my zine. This is my zine. These are my tags. And these tags I'm going to cut. I'm going to bring mine over. Whoops, that got buried underneath. Okay, so that we can make sure that I'm doing this the same again. So 3. So basically I'm cutting it in half, cutting it at the 6. And if I need to, I'll just do that. And it doesn't have to be exact. I mean, if you have a paper cutter not using a blade and a ruler, then you can cut it exact. All right, so that one gets cut in half. Let's see. I think I would like these to be the long ones, maybe. And that's another thing, like I'm gonna fold. So I've got my long tags and my wider tag. So what do I like this better as a tag this way? And then this would be the skinny tag. Or do I like this? Oh, I like this. I like that cuts in half. Makes it fun, okay? And then this would be my long tag, okay? So I'm gonna cut this one in half. And then cut this one in half the other way. Again, use your paper cutter if you have it. I feel like I'm doing this the hard way, but you know, it's always good to show people what to use. If this is what you have out, why go grab something else? So I've got my 2 fat tabs, the wide tabs, and then for these tabs, I want them to be, let's measure. Oops, that was the right way. About 4.5, okay? So 4.5 is, and also you're also paying attention to, you're cutting off part of it. So would I prefer to cut that off, or would I prefer to cut this off? This. I prefer to cut this off. And this is just a personal choice. There's like no rhyme or reason why I'm choosing that, other than I need to choose something. So I choose that. Okay. You might have chosen and liked the other side better, and that's awesome. All right, so that goes with that. And then for same thing with this one. Do I want to cut, it's going to be 4.5. So 4.5 would cut this off, or 4.5 would cut this off. So do I prefer that off, or do I prefer that off? This, because it leaves some of everything behind, okay? And again, that's my choice, and you might not agree with my choice, and that's good. That means that you are figuring out your style of doing something. Neither of us is right, or neither of us is wrong. Okay? All right, so now I have 2 tabs, 2 wide tags, 2 tall skinny tags. So I'm gonna grab some corner rounders. So, well, before I do that, these 2 don't need anything because we're gonna fold them in half, okay? So these stay along, I'm just kind of like prepping everything, so these stay. These, however, are just single-sided, all of 4 of these. And what I ended up doing was gluing a second piece of scrap paper, of my jelly prints and everything, onto the back. You can see I just did a single piece. The other tab is missing. Of course it's missing. There it is. And there, single piece, okay? So I gave it some bulk. So that's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna glue some scrap paper to the back of all of these. All right, so everything is, the zine is still waiting to be folded, and then my tags are all got double-sided, and I'm just gonna corner round, optional, oops, each of them. And then as I'm going, I'm also, not a good cut, I'm also checking for anything that didn't glue great, okay? So glue, you know, glue sticks are unpredictable, but I'm just checking anything that needs a little bit of glue. So I have my glue stick handy. Oops, I was going with the bigger one. Of course, if you don't have a corner rounder and you like round corners or not pointy corners, then you can use your scissor, okay? You don't need a corner rounder. All right, and then the tabs here, I'm going to fold in half. Here, it's bone folder, which you will need in a minute. And then I'm going to corner around the tops of these. Boop, boop. All right. Make sure it's in there. There you go. All right, and then get rid of all these little bits. All right, so then I have two tops, okay? So this one is still this paper, so maybe I would put that on this one. So it's different because then it's all different fun papers. And then this tab I'm going to put on this one, all right? So I'm going to use my art glitter glue for that. You could use your glue stick if you want to. I just happen to love this stuff. It's a pretty recent, I mean, to some of you are going to be like, well, of course. But it was a new find recently for me. Oops. So if you've never heard of it, it's delightful. It dries really quick, so you have to bear that in mind. And you don't want to lose the pin that I just pulled out of it that I tend to lose because the little tab will close up the little hole. So that was not super even, but I'm okay with that. The reason being, you know, also no perfection for me, but when you stick them in, if one was a little bit to one side and one was a little bit to the other side, oops, it's stuck, then it offsets itself, okay? So I'm okay with it not being perfect. Also, I think I'm gonna go this way. Man, you could play with this forever trying to decide. Yeah, let's do this. Don't. Remember that this is just, I literally use scraps of jelly print and a piece of tissue paper. So if it doesn't look wonderful and you would have done it a different way, then next time do it a different way. So this one, since I did that to that one by accident, I'm going to push down to the right ever so slightly. All right, so now I have two tabs, or tags with tabs. And then you could do the same thing, just corner around it, call it good. But I'm going to use this fabulous, and you know, just lining up best I can, tag holder. And again, not perfect because and that's about how much pops off of it. I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. All right, and then I'll corner around the bottoms because why not? I don't know if I corner around, I did not corner around the other ones, but I'm going to corner around these. Now these tags are not super thick because some of the paper was very thin, but I'm going to end up collaging all over them anyway, so the bulk of them is not that important to me, okay? All right, so I'll put them to the side. I'm also just going to add some ribbons on the top, and we're going to fold our zine. So if you know how to fold a zine, then I'm sure you folded it already. If you've never folded a zine, welcome to zine folding. All right, we're going to fold the long way. So I call this, a friend taught me this because she used to do this teach this to children. So this is the hot dog, folded as a hot dog. And I can tell already that I did not cut this super straight. So I'm trimming now. I'm sure I might do a little trimming in a minute, but I just want to trim. All right, so hot dog. And do it both ways as you fold. Okay, so back and forth. Then we're going to open it and fold it the hamburger. So short end to short end. Oops, I'm trying to stay in camera. Trying to stay in camera. All right, I can see right away there's a little, as I'm going, I'm checking out little pieces of paper that might need to be glued back down. Just keep an eye out, okay? You might find these little pieces. Instead of trying to glue that down, I'm just gonna trim it off. And again, folding both directions. This paper is 12 different kinds of paper, so I want to have all my paper, all my folds both ways, okay? It's just going to be helpful in the end. All right, and then I'm going to fold in the hamburger. So you have a center fold first, and I'm folding in the two sides. That's a lot of paper in that, okay? And you can see, needs some glue. This is where matte medium sometimes is your friend, that you might want to use matte medium instead of a glue stick, because then you can glue underneath and on top. But I chose a glue stick for this, and I'm okay with that. All right. I'm gonna let that dry a second while I fold in the other side. And I have another video with me folding zines and mini journals out of a single piece of paper, and I will link that below so that if you wanted to just see some other mini journals that I've made, oops, you can. Okay, it's a fun video, lots of different kinds of mini journals that are all made out of the same single piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. All right, fabulous. All right, your bone folder is going to come in handy here, peeps, because as I said, there's so many different types of paper happening here, and the paper needs to be folded back and forth. All right, so once you've done that, you end up with, it might be easier on this side, 8 sections, okay? 4, you could see them there. Boop, boop, boop. All right, so I'm gonna fold it back on a hamburger, and I'm actually fold it back this way because it'll be easier for you to see. Grab a pencil, and this is the open side, this is the folded side, and you're going to cut down to the center, okay? I'm going to use scissors. You can use your craft knife. You could just tear it. I probably wouldn't tear this because the paper, again, so many different kinds of paper. All right, so when you open it back up, you end up with that shape, okay? And a little hole in the center. All right, so now we want to close it up. So I just grab the side, if I'm a right-hander, so I'm grabbing in my left hand, and I just start folding it over. 1, 2, and then I grab the last one, the last page, and smush it down. Okay. So we've got 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. Delightful. All right, now it doesn't fold exact, you can see, okay? If that drives you absolutely crazy, trim a little bit. It probably, you know, this is, let's call it what it is, a junk journal. So when I did this one, I actually did it a slightly different way and I grabbed a different end so that on this one, there's going to be a pocket in the front, and on this one, the pocket's on the top. Both ways are fine. So there's not like a faster or easier way to fold the zine. Fold it the way that it lies naturally, okay? That's usually what I tell people. And you can always just mess with it a little and smush it down. All right, so now we want to create our pockets, and our art glitter glue will come in handy. So we want to create, where is it? All right, so we want to create the front pocket, all right, and the first 2 pages here, I want a top pocket and a side pocket. So I need to glue down the bottom of both of these. Okay, so I'm on page 1. So I'm gluing down here and here. I only glue the bottoms. You're welcome to glue the sides or up the middles, I mean, but I didn't feel that that was necessary. Okay, so now I have a pocket here and a pocket here. Okay, and it's glued at the bottom. So then I'm going to go to the next one, the last 2, and do the same thing. Okay, I want a pocket here and a pocket here, so I'm gluing it along the bottom. So a little glue. Oops. A little glue. Smush it down. Smush it down. Make sure you don't glue your pages together. I've done that. All right, again, some paper is lifting. I'm just gonna, since this is the glue in my hand, I'm gonna use it. And so this, again, you might find some, you know, some pages are lifting here and there, some papers are lifting, but you are going to end up using this. So gluing on top of it, adding collage, adding, you know, quotes, whatever you're gonna maybe paint on it, whatever you're gonna do to it. And I am gonna end up trimming this one forever. Probably should have left it alone at the beginning. Live and learn, right? A little bit of glue there. So now you've got your zine. Okay, ready to go. And then I have, in the first one, I've got a tag here, a tag here, a tag here, and a tag here. And you could zhuzh it up with some ribbons or whatever you want to do. But now you have, and then here's the other one. Now you have a little junk journal zine, a no-sew zine, if you wanted to participate in No-Sew November, or even use this for the junk journal January and July's that Meg Journals does. Or anything, just use it for your own art journal practice. So all the links for Meg's stuff will be below, and her channel. You might want to just deep dive into her channel. And then again, my links for the other zine making will be below. And if you love playing in little journals, I have a free class for you that you can find the link below. It is 3 simple ways to start or continue or rekindle a creative practice, and it gives you a way to make little journals like this. It has printables and it has prompts and lots of, 3 videos for you to walk through different 3 ways to get your creative practice a delightful place in your life. All right. If you have not subscribed, I would love it if you do so. Please give this a thumbs up if you found it valuable. And if you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. If you have anything, that would be awesome. All right, friends, I will see you soon in another video. Take care.